Zach here from GBC in Half Moon Bay, ready to bring our first Send It ride outside of Los Angeles. Now, last month we had our anniversary ride up in Pacifico Mountain, and this is Gravel by California after all, so it's time to bring the series across the state. Earlier this year, we came out here for a gravel guide that was an instant classic. We're changing the route up just a little bit, but still the main components are there, going along the coast and into the Purisima. Those are Redwoods. Anyways, take a look at the weather. As Mark Twain used to say, the coldest winter I ever spent probably looks something like this. Let's roll. Slightly different from our Half Moon Bay gravel guide, this 32-mile Send It loop adds 1,000 feet of climbing thanks to our Tunitas Creek edition. Even though this was a new locale, this crew knew the routine how to do a group ride, and there was a universal fun mood abound as we quickly made our way through the streets of Half Moon Bay. Although the neighborhood was quaint, we soon found our way onto the coastal trail, where the combination of all the elements uplifted our dispositions a little more. Eventually, we had to veer off the coast, but got an elegant look of the group spread out, as this oncoming 7-foot climb felt like an Everest relative to our gain so far, as no emergency services were needed, with the trees trending along the sources of water, and vanished quickly without, as there were a lot of these back and forth moments, with our highly anticipated incursion into the banyan trees looking to be one of our most scenic portions, rolling through these unique lanes and Tim Burton-esque like architecture. But just as we were hitting our stride, everyone followed the smoother path away from the banyans. But in gravel, you're never lost, just finding new ways to explore, as this passage had a Game of Thrones feel to it, with the limbs reaching out, eventually making out from the wall, returning to our stark landscape. A frozen tundra this isn't. While we weren't experiencing much elevation gain, there was a particular type of flow, with many turns warranting shifts, even losing sight of the group among the hedges, as the roots carved some interesting lanes, and all this only 4 miles in. The ride took a slightly different tone, crossing our only golf cart egress dedicated bridge, aligning some prime real estate, as the Ritz-Carlton sports 2 golf courses, with the Coastal 18 understandingly the higher price of the two, but the riding and walking were free, as well as these million-dollar views, also having more fun than in an electric cart. Veering away from the golf course brought the dirt goodness back, with space to open it up a bit, along with some unprearranged but approved stops, and a more serpentine path guiding the scenery, even leading to a dead end. That's a picture-worthy spot, even with the fog. Cowell Ranch was our final coastline segment, keeping us to continue our stoke, and even spread our wings. Maybe this is a little more clouds than we hoped for, but it doesn't change a thing. We finally turned away from the ocean exiting the ranch onto Highway 1. And even though pavement had been sparse, there was no adjustment needed, as others riding the highway evidenced. But our time along this linear segment was brief, turning onto the Lobitos Creek cutoff, where it was time to switch up a few gears for our first bit of climbing of the day, which was no real worry for this group, being only a mere half mile at a steady 6%. But at the top there was an opposite and equal reaction, giving up all that vert quickly on this descent, which most were able to hold on to that speed after the right turn onto Tunitas Road, as this was one of the rare appendages on our rides, rolling into one of the most unique cycling locales in the state in the Bike Hut, a self-service coffee shop run on the honor system, also featuring a wide array of snack choices where you could learn from various maps and local info, and peer at the previous winners of the Bike Hut Classic, as our ride happened to coincide with the reception for said classic, exemplifying what a special place this is. No one's allowed to ride if they think a 7-Eleven is better than this. It was time to reverse course, heading back up Tunitas Creek to its peak, with changing landscapes and difficulty along the way. This 8.2 mile stretch sounds tame, with an average grade of 4.6%, but watch out for the Redwoods, as the middle 3 miles average near 8%. The bottom 2 miles starts out fast, but all that changes heading into the trees, transitioning you into the grind, starting off with an ample amount of lighting, despite the height of the trees, but everyone kept an eye out as cyclists dominated the downhill traffic, also noticing the houses are few and far between, but not the amount of pedal strokes, as it's best to appreciate this unique setting to pass the time. I mean, this is just gorgeous. Not just the trees, the silence. The acquisition of oxygen is the only sound we'd hear, singled out among the scale of the surroundings, creating an enviable sense of peace, not really experienced on Descendant ride before. And while embracing a sense of calm helps, my front tire was in a zen-like state, uninhibited with inflation. You lead enough rides, it's bound to happen. With the Redwoods gone, I knew I was near the top, but after pumping a few times, I knew I had to take more drastic measures.
Did you find the leak?
Yeah, it's a small leak right here. I took long enough that others came looking for me, but the distance wasn't too far from the top, as a group bared the most shivering place on the ride, overly capable of finding ways to pass time. As we soon continued on to Skyline, a bit chillier than we had hoped, but we soon turned off the slickness into Purisima Creek Redwoods, which was the anticipated descent of the day, with 4 miles of dreamy dirt ahead of us. Once again, everyone collected, waiting for everyone at the bottom to regroup. As earlier in descent, Chris, who drove all the way from Chico, did me one better. You have tubes or?
Yeah, I got tubes, I got floods.
Okay.
I'll be fine.
Need sealant? Look what I got.
Ooh,
Fresh.
I might take some of that.
Exiting Purisima Creek left us one last effort, returning via some verticalness up Higgins Canyon, a 1 mile climb with a steady grade, as you overlook the other entry into Purisima in Cypress Ridge Road, but even after a couple minutes in your small ring, the peak soon comes into sight, making one last regroup taking us into Half Moon Bay, enjoying the pastoral landscape at non-pastoral speeds. The ride flattened out still to high speeds thanks to a Titanic-sized draft, putting us back into Half Moon Bay, seeing the town full swing into lunchtime mode as we properly followed suit, rolling into Dad's Luncheonette, owned by cyclist chef Scott Clark, as we were all ready to grub down, with the proper sustenance in hand, successfully capping the first of many send-its in the Bay Area.
We had mishaps, and maybe a little bit more than normal, but everyone here just audibled magically. The coast, yeah, it was foggier than we'd hoped, but still always a special experience. And I like that we added Tunitas Creek, climbing it in the middle of the Redwoods. At those speeds, you really feel the silence. And then the downhill, like, sells itself. This was a fantastic ride. We'll be back for more. Well, if you want to support us for our travels across the state, go ahead and please hit the subscribe button or go on to Patreon or to our shop so we can bring you more. Stay dirt.